Challenge accepted.
What follows is a collection of the last 10 strategy videos I made for Contra Speedrunning. This is Season 2. Hope you enjoy it. The tanks on Snowfield are not actually that difficult to kill. They do take time though. Unfortunately, there are two ways we can speed up the process, and they both involve having a better understanding of how the tanks actually function. First thing to understand is that you cannot deal damage to the tank until it has stopped moving. So what we can do is we can run up to the tank and jump. Now, when we're just over the tip of the gun, we can tap left so as not to collide with the tank and die. This will stop the tank in its tracks, and we can begin to button mash a lot earlier. The second thing to understand is the hitbox of this tank. You see how I can actually stand in the spikes without dying. As we all know, the closer you are to the thing you're shooting, the faster it will die. Oh, and one other thing, that explosion won't hurt you, which means that if you time it just right, you can actually start running just as the tank begins to explode. Now this particular strat will take some practice, but it's definitely worth it as it will save you time. These 6 claws in Hangar have wrecked more PBs than you can imagine. The fact is, they actually aren't that difficult to get through. The problem is that we tend to rush them. Now the casual strat is just walking through one claw at a time, but we're speedrunners, we never walk. The second strategy is to skip the second and third claws and take the rest one at a time to give us plenty of time to destroy that spike wall. Now the third strategy is to only stop once in the middle of the claws. We're going to start running just as the second claw starts to drop. This will allow us to run past 3 claws before having to wait under the 4th. If we start running again as soon as there's a gap, we should make it through without having to stop again. Just don't forget to start shooting as soon as that wall spawns. Now the problem here is timing. Sometimes the claws are not in the right position to use the fastest strategy, and so we end up having to sort of dodge claws like this. Fortunately, we have a visual cue to determine whether or not we can go for a single pause strat. If the first claw hits the ground when I'm on top of the lines that I'm currently standing on, then I know I can make it. If the claw hits the ground before or afterwards, I know I'm going to need to stop more than once. Now there is actually a bonus strat that we can use. See, the claws, like the flames in the previous stage, happen to be on a global timer, and we can use this to our advantage. If we find ourselves in a situation where we have to stop before the first claw, then we simply pause when it's on its way up, just like that, and run through as usual. If we find ourselves having to stop at the second claw, we just pause when it's on its way up and carry on as normal. Notice I had to pause for the wall a claw later, but we're still able to get through with a fast strat. Now, I'm going to be honest here. You have about a second to not only decide whether to pause or not, but also when to pause and which claw to wait under. Remember that we're trying to pause to skip the correct claws from dropping, allowing us to run through. And all of this only saves about a second. If you're a beginner, I'm going to highly recommend don't push your luck with pausing the game. Get used to the easier strats first. The following strat assumes that you've learned how to get through these flames without the barrier. There's actually a bunch of ways we can get through here. We could take the safe route, but then since when do speedrunners like making life easy for themselves? Let's see how this plays out. Our first visual cue is the lines I'm standing on right now. This is when we make our first jump. Now halfway between the middle and the last pipe is when we make our second jump so as to avoid both the flame and any gunfire from that troll. Don't forget to wait a little at this flame. As soon as you clear it, start laying down cover fire to create space. It's at this point that you'll want to drop down. Our next visual cue is the 4 lines I'm standing on right here. Jumping here, you should be able to thread the needle between those 2 bullets, and if we keep firing, we should be able to run right through that troll on top. Keep button mashing, duck for the second troll, and drop off the edge. Finally, we jump onto this ledge here. Just don't forget that flame. If you jump when you're right below the flame, you should avoid the flame and avoid connecting with the ledge on the way up. For the record, the barrier runs out just before you hit the flame, no matter how you run this, so you might want to be careful. Now technically, there is a faster strat called a leap of faith. The problem is it's total chance. And the chances are so tiny because this particular flame isn't on a global timer. It burns at completely random intervals. Even the best runners don't use this strategy, it's just not worth it. You see that carry above my head? It's actually the first spread fire in the game, and there are two ways to pick it up without having to slow down. Now I'd recommend picking up the machine gun at the start of the stage, but the pea shooter works just as well. Now the first way is to use the crack I'm standing on right now as a visual cue for when to jump and shoot down, thus killing the troll and the carry at the same time. Now the second way is to stop shooting when the carrier catches up to you and then to shoot twice just as it rises out of the way in order to kill that troll. Again, don't forget to shoot to destroy the carrier. The idea here is that we're trying to avoid shooting the carrier until it's in front of us. Of course, the difficulty here being the troll that's trying to kill us at the same time. Now, to be honest, jumping only costs 1 frame, and it's only a little safer. So in this case, I'll leave the choice up to you. The only RNG found in this stage is the boss we're about to meet. There are 3 ways to get through here. The first is a safe method which guarantees us success. We'll start by running up to the turret below me and careful not to run into its bullets. We're going to jump and shoot down to destroy it. Next, we run off the edge, duck and shoot to take out the next turret. Now we jump over to the top ledge, run forward a little bit till the boss comes into view and we kill the troll. Now that the troll's dead, we can move off the ledge and stand right about here to destroy the 2 guns. All that's left is to run up to the shield and mash it to death. Alright, the second method is most commonly used by speedrunners. We skip the first turret and we kill the second while jumping over it. Drop off the ledge, run up to the shield and button mash it to death. Notice that we don't even have to worry about the troll up top or the 2 guns. The problem is that there is a fair chance the 2 guns will get you on your way to the shield. This is not a consistent strategy, but it is fast. Then we have the third strategy, which is the fastest, although not by much. We again skip the first turret and we kill the second one while jumping over it. But this time, instead of dropping off the ledge, we actually jump right at the edge. We fire 2 buffer shots down and to the right to deal a little bit of extra damage to the shield before we even get to it. And then, as usual, we button mash the shield to death. This is by far the riskiest strategy. Let's take a look at the difference between these strats in terms of pacing. Assuming you did the rest of the stage perfectly, you'd finish at around 1 minute 15 seconds using the first strategy. Use the second and you'd finish at around 56 seconds. That's a 19-second time save. So it makes sense to forget about the first strategy. Now you're probably saying to yourself, well, hang on a minute, how much time save does the third strategy have? The answer? Less than half a second. It literally only saves a few frames. The point I'm trying to make in this whole video is that occasionally speedrunners will opt for a slower strat. Occasionally. The triple flames on Energy Zone. Here's a strat most of us learn sort of by gut feel, until we happen to meet other more experienced Contra runners who teach us the technical aspects of this particular strat. You see, you can actually get through this part without having to slow down if you're lucky. The first thing to understand is that there are 3 flames, and therefore 3 slightly different strategies. If the top flame burns first, you need to duck as far to the right as you can, although right here is actually just fine. Then you can proceed to jump to the top, as long as you don't miss a jump. If you do, quickly duck again and wait for your next gap. Now if the bottom flame burns first, you probably won't get past the wall above my head before having to duck, which means you'll probably have to duck twice. Once where I am now, and once roundabout in this position. Then you should be able to just jump through without any problem at all. Again, if you miss a jump, duck again, wait for your next gap. Technically, you can run far enough to where you only have to duck once, but you're taking a big chance for a few frames. And when you've got nothing but green splits behind you, it can be difficult to justify potentially killing a run. Now, if the middle flame burns first, you're able to just get through without having to slow down. The big question is, how do we know which flame is going to burn first? Well, these flames are not exactly random. They're actually on a global timer, and that global timer does not start at the beginning of the stage. It starts at the beginning of the game. Now, the top runners have put in so much time that they will actually have a good idea of what the flames are going to do from the start of the stage based on the pace shown in their splits. For the rest of us, the best I can recommend is to run to the 5 lines I'm standing on just before the corner of this wall. And if the middle or top flame has not burnt yet, duck. Duck a second time, and carry on through the strategy as normal. Or if you're on the run of your life and you're so nervous you can barely concentrate, just duck anyway. You're only losing a few frames, and at this point, unless you're a top runner, it's far more important to get through without dying. Base 1 has 5 rooms that we need to get through as fast as we can. And we progress through each room by destroying the blue shields at the back of the room while avoiding turrets and trolls. But before we begin, we need to have a basic understanding of spread rhythm. Now, the game will only allow 10 of our projectiles to be on the screen at a time. That equals to 2 button presses with our spread fire. Notice the arc that our bullets make. Well, that means that the first bullet in the center is going to leave the screen first. So if we were to fire at the same time, there would only be 9 bullets left on the screen, and so the game would only spawn 1 more bullet. This is fundamentally how we go from firing arcs to firing a steady stream of bullets. Basically, your third button press needs to happen when one of the arcs is halfway off the screen. I plan to go into greater detail in a future video, but for now all you need to know is that spread rhythm is less about how fast you can button mash and more about how steady your button mashing is. Spread rhythm is most noticeable in the base stages. That being said, let's go through the strategy used in base 1. Room 1. Center yourself in the middle of the room and try to get the best spread rhythm you can. Seriously, if you just stay in the center, all those bullets will miss you. Room 2. Immediately jump to the right to take out the gun, because otherwise he will kill you. Then run to the left and kill the shield. You should take out all the trolls in the process. Room 3. Similar to room 1, jump to the center, duck though, and fire at the shield. Room 4. Duck slightly off center and fire to destroy the rollers. This has the added benefits of helping you tremendously with spread rhythm. Then simply stand and kill the shield. Now if we had been in the center, that gun would have killed us as soon as we stood up. Room 5. Immediately jump to the right to kill that gun. This will make it much easier to position ourselves in the middle here. Now you'll want to position yourself slightly off center again, a little left from the middle, so that the top and left turret will both miss you. Your button mashing should prevent any trolls from killing you. All that's left is to run through and face the boss. But that's for another video. This video is going to be a bit different from my usual strategy videos in that I want to discuss troll behavior. Trolls are, well, there's a reason why we call them trolls. They really do troll players terribly. It's one of the most frustrating aspects in the speedrun. This is probably because trolls are designed to feel more random than they actually are. Now I'm using a ROM hack here to help explain the details of troll behavior in the game. That's why they're frozen in place. Number 1. Trolls always spawn off screen so that they can run into view. So in other words, you'll never have a troll spawn in the middle of the screen. Now the lesson here is to always be looking ahead. Number 2. Trolls, if they shoot, will either shoot 1, 2 or 3 bullets at random. Except at Team Zone Jungle stage. I've never been shot by a troll on that stage. The lesson here, just assume that they're always going to shoot. And we need to shoot them before they get that chance. This is why when you watch speedrunners play the game, they're shooting the whole way through. They never stop. Lesson 3. When a troll gets to the edge of a ledge, they will either turn around and run the other way, or they will jump off said ledge. Now, sometimes that means jumping the gap, sometimes it means jumping down. For the player, this means that jumping can be dangerous. Now in a waterfall, for example, you can easily get nailed by trolls above and below you. The lesson here is the same as before: kill them before they can hurt you. Let's look at some notable problem places in the game. For example, dropping off the ledge, like on this stage here, that I have to do for the fastest route. Oftentimes there's a troll waiting for me, and no matter how I fire, that's about the closest I can get to where I'm going to land. And you'll notice there's a gap there. No matter how I jump this, that's where the bullet lands, and that's where I land. I can't really protect myself too easily. Now there is a little trick we can do to help us with this problem, just like that. The problem with the strategy is that it requires a lot of skill. It's not always going to work depending on where you're jumping. There's a lot of places where we drop off ledges. It's a lot of times where we are going to have to use this trick. It's easier to just run through and hope there's no trolls there. Another problem area is the gunners. You'll notice that I can't kill those trolls until I've killed the gunner first. They protect the trolls when we need to be killing them. Trolls may spawn and shoot randomly, and that does make them difficult to deal with, but that doesn't mean they're impossible to handle. My recommendation, get to know where they spawn so that you can fill those areas with bullets just in case. The Snowfield boss is an easy kill. It's more about RNG than anything else. This is because there are 3 places the boss can spawn: the left, the middle, and the right. Now the recommendation is to run to the right and then wait for the boss to spawn. Now you don't want to stand as far out as possible for a reason that will be discussed in a minute. If you get the left spawn, you simply jump and fire to the left to deal some damage on the way to the boss. Once underneath the boss, we jump and fire once more. We'll lose a few seconds of time here because we need to run to the exit. If you get the middle spawn, the boss should take some damage because we weren't all the way on the right hand side of the screen. Simply jump and tap left at the last moment to slightly realign directly below the boss. One more jump and then we can run towards the exit. If you get the right hand spawn, you're in luck. You won't have to move at all. Simply jump straight up, and if your button mashing is good enough, you'll be able to kill him on the way down. For the record, the boss will spawn on the left around 25% of the time, in the middle about 25% of the time, and on the right about 50% of the time. An ideal situation would have the boss spawning on the right, with the player standing as far right as possible. We choose not to stand on the far right as possible, purely because we're playing the odds. And by the way, I haven't mentioned this boss's projectiles, because you really shouldn't have to worry about them. Base 2 is similar to Base 1, except there's more rooms, more trolls, and more bullets. Let's have a look at how it's done. Room 1, we're going to stand in the middle and shoot. Now we can use the rollers to get better spread rhythm if we want to, but really this room is that simple. Room 2, we're going to aim for the center left shield first. Once that's down, we aim for the left shield. Then we move over and aim for the 2 shields on the right. Position ourselves correctly and we'll be able to hit both shields at the same time with our bullets. Room 3, stand slightly off center to the left so you can kill that troll before he drops his second roller. Once the left shield is destroyed, you can move over to the left if you need to and focus on the right shield. You might need to duck. Room 4, we duck down in the center and double tap. That way our spread fire hits both shields at the same time. Room 5, we kill the gun in the middle first, then we move over to the right to destroy that shield. Then to the left to destroy that shield. And if we time it just right, we're able to start moving before that shield is even destroyed. Room 6, we get back to the middle and duck down if we need to get our spread rhythm back, and then destroy the shield in the middle. Now room 7, you can stand in the middle and kill the gun first, otherwise you can stand slightly off center and jump and double tap to destroy the shield above. If you do it right, you should only need 4 jumps. Now there is a faster way, but it's difficult. If you've got enough spread rhythm, you can deal more damage with each jump if you keep button mashing than if you start double tapping. Room 8 is the last room. We destroy the right turret first, get to the center or slightly off center, so as not to get shot by the top or left hand turret. Now this is very similar to Base 1, however this time we may have to sidestep a couple stray bullets from trolls. All that's left is to face the final boss, but we'll talk about that in another video. I just wanted to let you guys know that I've still got plenty of video ideas. I plan to start on Season 3 soon, which would include more advanced strats. If you have any ideas or questions, let me know. I love getting feedback. Also, if I've got anything wrong, please tell me. I'll close by thanking everyone for the support. Keep running, and remember, don't stop shooting.